originally read his way into it. "At home," he says, "I mainly used to read. I wished to stifle with external sensations all that was ceaselessly boiling up inside me, and among external sensations the only one possible for me was reading. Reading was of course a great help. It stirred, delighted, and tormented me." That was during his youth, in the 1840s. He read, he dreamed, and he engaged in little debauches. These were his three diversions, and it is interesting that he puts them together. What did he read? At various points in his account he compares himself with Byron's Manfred, with characters from Pushkin and Lermontov, all romantic figures. He refers more than once to Rousseau. Further in the background, but looming large, stand Kant and Schiller, representing German philosophical and poetic idealism, summed up in the phrase of the beautiful and lofty, which had become a commonplace of Russian liberal criticism of the 1840s. His reading was, in other words, that of the typical educated Russian of the time. Reading nourished his dreaming, and even found its way into his little debauches, in exactly the proportion required for a good source. And so it was that he evaded the petty squalor and inner anguish of his daily life. So it was, as he confesses 16 years later, that he defaulted on his life through moral corruption in a corner. One main thematic strand of the book is the underground man's denunciation of the estranging and vitiating influence of books, so that from his perspective of the 1860s, when he begins to write, the word literary has become one of the most sarcastic he can utter. To all the features for an anti-hero, purposely collected in Notes from Underground, there are added all the features for an anti-book. That book is the underground man's book, not Dostoevsky's, though the two coincide almost word for word. Indeed, the sharp personality of the underground man, the intensity of his attacks and confessions, the apparent lack of critical distance in the first-person narrative, have given many readers the impression that they have to do here with a direct statement of Dostoevsky's own ideological position, and much commentary has been written on the book in that light. Much has also been said about the tragic, or at least terribly sad, essence of its vision. Both notions seem to overlook the humour, stylistic, situational, polemical, parodic, that pervades Notes from Underground. Dostoevsky certainly put a lot of himself into the situations and emotions of his narrator. What distinguishes his book from the narrator's is an extra dimension of laughter. Laughter creates the distance that allows for recognition, without which the book might be a tract, a case history, a cry of despair, anything you like, but not a work of art. Notes from Underground has been called the prelude to the great novels of Dostoevsky's last period, and it is so partly because here Dostoevsky first perfected the method of tonal distancing that enabled him to present characters and events simultaneously from different points of view, to counter empathy with intellection. The underground man's book is a personal outpouring, harsh, self-accusatory, defiant, negligently written, loosely structured, a long diatribe followed by some avowedly random recollections. I will not introduce any order or system. Whatever I recall, I will write down. It claims to be genuine, if artistically crude. No longer literature, but corrective punishment, the narrator finally decides. Nietzsche thought he could hear the voice of the blood in it. Dostoevsky's novel is something quite different. It is a tragicomedy of ideas, admirable for the dramatic expressiveness of its prose, which gives subtle life to this voice from under the floorboards with all its withholdings, second thoughts, loopholes, special pleadings, and admirable, too, for the dynamics of its composition, the interplay.